The thing is, I gave you this example because Allah doesn't punish right away. People do all kinds of horrible acts against God. They do injustices towards one another. Injustices that He warns you shouldn't do, that have dire consequences. The only problem is, you don't see those consequences. I used to often give the example of back in the day, some ancient times where a man has a slave. And this slave, he tells him, you can do whatever you want inside of this field. But I've drawn a line, don't step foot on the other side of the line. And the slave says, fine. I'm at least free within this acreage. So this slave is doing his thing, and one day he trips, and guess where he falls? Over the line. The moment he falls over the line, where does he look? His eyes go straight to the master, sitting in the distance. Am I in trouble? And the master doesn't even get up, doesn't budge. And he comes and apologizes, and the master says, it's okay, it was a mistake. And he is shocked that he wasn't in the kind of trouble that he thought he'd get into. So the next day he's just kind of walking along the edge of the line and pretends to fall. And no consequences. And so he gets into the habit of not only pretend falling, and now one day he's just walking one foot on this side, one foot on the other side. And the master is just sitting there on his rocking chair, no reaction. Until eventually the slave is always on the other side. He's just out. Years go by. One day the master calls him and says, hey, so you remember like 7 years ago I told you not to go on the other side? He goes, yeah, that was funny. He goes, so I've been counting the times you went, and I've decided to punish you for all of those times today. You're kidding, right? No, I'm serious. You're going to pay for all of that now. Is that a shocker? To him it is a shocker because he thought the master was what? A nice master. He wasn't going to punish me. I'm not talking about a human master or a slave. What am I talking about? Allah tells you don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, don't commit adultery, don't do injustice, don't be harsh to the weak, take care of your parents, etc., etc. You violated left, right, and center. You don't see any consequences. You lied. There's no lightning strike from the sky cutting off your tongue. That doesn't happen. You don't steal and get electrocuted in your hand. Allah could, He doesn't. That doesn't happen. You hurt someone, but you don't lose the ability to use your hand ever again. That doesn't happen. There are apparently no consequences. I keep getting away. Like in the laws of nature, when I break the laws of nature, if I jump off a second floor building, my bones will break. But when I break the laws of God, the laws of morality, I don't seem to have any consequences. Allah is way too kareem, way too generous. And a person starts thinking about the generosity of Allah and starts assuming that that generosity must mean that He is not willing to punish me. He's not willing to bring me to account, not willing to hold me accountable for what I've done. So Allah asks a very penetrating question. What in the world was powerful enough to delude you from your gracious master? Is it the grace of your master, the karama of your master? Is that why you got confused? You took advantage of it? You remember I told you people who deny the afterlife and say, Allah, come on, He wouldn't. Those people. مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ. The other side of this, when Allah is noble, it also suggests that Allah treated you with nobility. Allah treated you with respect. He honored human beings. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah is Kareem, and He did takreem. Allah is noble Himself, Allah is gracious Himself, and He graced humanity. He graced us with the gift of speech, with this profound intellect that He gave the human being, the gift of imagination. He gave us the gift of revelation. He gave us all these profound gifts that other creations did not receive. I have given you so much. What was on the other end that was so much more compelling that you abandoned me? Allah is asking. مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ. Was my grace to you not enough? That you found something else more attractive? Ma in Arabic can do two things. Ma can mean what? What confused you? What deluded you? What deceived you? Literally the word what. But the word ma can also actually be personified. What kind of being was it? What kind of competitor to me was it? You know how you say sometimes you use the word what for a person? Like, what kind of person are you? What kind of teacher is he? So Allah is saying, what kind of competitor to me was it that deluded you and took you away from your noble master? the master who treated you with nobility, the master who himself deserves nobility. Because every time you defy his commandments, it's like you don't acknowledge how noble he is. You have no regard and no respect for him. You know, when you abide by your parents' advice or counsel or their request, then you're honoring them. When you abide by the laws of a society, you're respecting the laws of society. You're not just obeying the laws of that society, you're respecting the laws of that society. When we're abiding by the commandments of Allah, we're actually honoring Allah, not just obeying Him. Therefore, disobeying Allah's commandments is actually a denial of Allah's nobility, His grace, His greatness. مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ. And then he makes this profound statement. There's somewhat of what might seem at first glance as a redundancy here, but I'll try to explain it to you bit by bit so it'll make sense. First I'll translate. الَّذِي خَلَقَكَ فَسَوَّاكَ فَعَدَلَكَ فِي أَيِّ صُورَةٍ مَا شَاءَ رَكَّبَكَ. This is one continuous statement. Meaning your master who created you, who then balanced you or evened you out. Sawwaka, you can also translate as, and he put finishing touches on you. You know, first the wall is made with the ancient bricks and stone, and then there's a plaster that smooths out and makes everything even. That's taswiyah, to put the finishing touches on something. So he didn't just make you raw, he actually put refined finishing touches on you. This is the nature of how Allah creates. Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la alladhi khalaqa fasawwa. So here, khalaqaka fa sawwaka. Same words again. He creates and then he puts finishing touches. He beautifies. He didn't just make the orange, he designed the gorgeous peel. You know, he didn't just make the animal, he colored the fur. He did all kinds of finishing touches on creatures and on humanity. But then he adds fa'adalak, which means he balanced you. The redundancy, apparent redundancy, is that the word adal and taswiyah are similar. Adal means balance, and taswiyah also means balance in some cases, to equalize. Okay? But first I'll translate and I'll share some of the subtleties that are inside this remarkable word. في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك. In whatever form he wanted. In whatever shape he wanted. And it's actually, whatever is not a good translation, أي للتعجب. Which means, in what remarkable form did he decide to shape you? And to build you piece by piece. Rakkabak, actually to put together layer after layer after layer. I'll get into the etymology a little later. So for now, the first thing. When Allah describes His creative power, He usually mentions two things. Either He mentions one, He created. الَّذِي خَلَقَ. Or He'll say, for example, خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, the creator of all things. But when He speaks about all creation, the most elaborate description that you get is الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى. He created and He put finishing touches. He balanced. He, evened out. That's the kind of verbiage you find. For human beings, Allah used an additional term, فَعَدَلَكَ. And He made you even. Now it's already even like every other creation, but apparently Allah is saying there's a level of evenness or balance to the human being that wasn't granted to any other creature. And so an additional word is necessary to illustrate how human beings are actually different in the way Allah created them from all other creation. Al-'idl nisfu al-himl yakun ala ahadi janbay al-ba'ir. Idl in Arabic, from which the word balance comes, is actually, when they used to load stuff on a camel, you can't really put stuff on top of a camel because it's kind of a narrow back. So you have to load stuff on the sides. But the thing is, if one side is too heavy and the other side not heavy enough, what's going to happen to the luggage? It's going to just flip over and tip. So you have to balance the weight on this side with the other side. One of the sides is called idl, the other is called ma'dul. That's actually what those words are used for. So that you have equal weight on both sides so the camel can actually move. The idea is, from the way that the word is used, is muwazanatu thiqlin fi janib bi thiqlin fi janib akhar hatta yattazina, to put one thing on one end and another on the other end to balance those two things out. By using that word, Allah is commenting on the nature of human beings and the way He designed us, that there are actually opposing forces inside of us that balance each other out. There are tendencies, there's anger on the one hand and mercy on the other. And they're both necessary. There are some things that necessitate your anger, and at the same time, there are things that necessitate mercy. There's strength and delicacy. There are some things that require all of your might, and other things that require you to be very crafty and very delicate. There's your mind and your heart. Your mind is a rational, machine. It calculates, it makes decisions. But there are many decisions that you cannot just make purely based on reason. You have to actually involve emotion. You have to be merciful in your decision, patient in your decision, kind in your decision. Those are not rational.